Spanish Civil War.
Causes. Spain came from the dictatorship of Primo de Rivera, and the country was suffering a significant social, cultural, and economic backwardness regarding the rest of Europe, where the social differences were increasingly noticeable. In 1930, the dictatorship resigned, and in 1931, the king Alfonso XIII called for municipal elections where the population had to choose between monarchs or republicans. Monarchs won the elections, however, republicans get the majority of the votes in the most important cities. In this period, the left started its radicalization. It had a strong anti-clerical ideology, and strikes and demonstrations were organized. In 1932, in order to overthrow the left, the National Band tried a coup called Sanjurjada. In 1933, another election was celebrated, and in this one the right won. In addition, this was the first election where women could vote. During this period, there was a huge economic and social instability. A powerful minority controlled most of the economic resources, while the majority of the population was under miserable living conditions. In 1934, a political party from the left, the PSOE, attempted a coup in Asturias, the October Revolution. The National Band sent Franco as the general charge to stop the revolt. He succeeded, and in consequence, the right gained strength. In addition, in Catalonia, there was an attempt to proclaim independence. Nevertheless, the right was against nationalism, so they illegalized it. In 1936, another election was convened. In this one, there were two main political parties, Falange from the right and Popular Front from the left. The left won, and its radicalization continued. Church burning, demonstrations, strikes. Furthermore, the political class failed, since they didn't improve the living conditions and the social differences were not mitigated. The political instability was getting bigger, and the conflicts between both sides increased considerably.
The war in the peninsula. Spain was divided in two areas. Among Republicans were the left groups, Catalan and Basque nationalists, that were against totalitarian regime and they caused social revolution, and they were against the church. However, nationals were in favor of Franco, and they were monarchs, Carlists and Phalangists. They defended the unity of the country, and they were agreed with the rebellion. On July of 1936, the General Francisco Franco led a general uprising directed by Emilio Mola in Morocco. It had started a bloody civil war between two fronts. On the one hand, the left, who was supported by Russia, France, and England, and on the other hand, the right had the support of the fascist Italy and the Nazi Germany.
The Spanish Civil War. Spanish Civil War is divided into four phases: the attempt to conquer Madrid, the Northern Campaign, the attack of the Mediterranean, and the Republican quit. The attempt to conquer Madrid started in 1936, when soldiers of Morocco entered Spain at the command of Franco. After conquering some autonomous regions of the northern and the southern of Spain, the troops arrived to the city of Madrid. When arriving to the big city, national troops tried to make a coup, but it was unsuccessfully carried out.
Northern Campaign. In 1937, national soldiers started focusing on getting the control of the north part of Spain. Specifically, they wanted to conquer Asturias, Santander, and the Basque Country, as they were the autonomous regions with the most economical resources. One of the most known events led by Franco's army was the Guernica bombing.
Attack to the Mediterranean. In 1938, in order to change the situation, the Republic Army ran an offensive to Teruel. However, the National Band rapidly recovered this place. Due to this, Nationals counterattacked and they sent an offensive to the Mediterranean Sea zone. They conquered two regions, Valencia and Aragon. In consequence, the Republic area was divided into zones, and Catalonia remained isolated.
Republicans quit. The Republican bloc made a second attempt to change the situation between 1938 and 1939. This attempt is known as Ebro's Battle, which was one of the most bloody battles of the Spanish Civil War. Franco managed to stop this attack, and he counterattacked through the Republican bloc, winning in this way the battle.
As the Republican army was getting weaker, Franco's soldiers started conquering Catalonia until they reached the border of France. The Republicans, seeing the situation, decided to negotiate with the national side surrendering in this way without putting any resistance. Consequences. When the Civil War finished, Franco's dictatorship started and lasted 36 years in Spain. Before a long war, which lasted 3 years, demographic, economic, and social consequences were obvious. On the one hand, taking into account demographic consequences, there was a considerable impact index, considering that it is estimated that deaths overtaken 500,000 people. In addition, during that period, there was a Republican exile to different countries and young people went abroad in terms of work. Additionally, some months after finishing the Civil War started the Second World War, which caused another exile to other countries. On the other hand, the economic consequences were notable, as they left years of hunger together with the loss of cultural and artistic heritage. Also, due to the destruction of the country's textile industry, the economy depended on the agriculture sector. During this period, the loss of freedom was almost total, and there was a great persecution of all those who thought differently. This resulted in more deaths, more exiled people, and the isolation of Spain. In 2007, the Historical Memory Act was accepted, restoring the memory and dignity of those who were retaliated against.